even on the state reductions.
You remember, this is old. Some of this is old news, and I'll remind you that the governor did this holdback thing, and we were caught with $1.2 million a cut. We had 300,000 saved. There was 900,000 left over. We gave the school 600 to deal with, and we took 300 as the town government, and we held back ours. And I know the school found their money or stopped planning or whatever they did.
We
froze accounts all over the place. And they were prepared for this coming down. So this is old news for us. We're going to get through this year.
So right now, based on those conversations that we had almost a year ago, we think we're tracking about where we thought we would track.
We didn't have this information then.
No, but we
No.
know what the target was. We knew that
We moved our target down,
right.
1.2.
So when we moved it to that
We
point,
moved it, and we're going to hit it.
you're going to be there.
And if we don't, we're going to get into budget reserves and have to pay it back next year. If our health insurance goes whack, or the government, this isn't done yet. Today, we're talking about not getting the second payment of Town Aid Road, which is, we get the money, we spend the money, but they could do the same thing with ECS tomorrow. The state's running a deficit. They could do this on June 29th, not send us money. And they've proven that last year around this time we got cut midterm. So mid-year.
So knowing that
right now, we're not staying up at night, panicking, but and nor should you.
That's what I do. So right now, from the high level, you're going to end up, you think, based on the information that you have today, stapling Jell-O to the wall, you're going to end up about where you perceived that you would after we were done with our budget, not gyrations, there's a different word, at the end of our budget negotiations last year when we set our mill rate and we had the impacts from the state and everything else. You don't see any glaring differences than what you thought you were going to see. Is that a true statement?
At this point in time.
With all the qualifiers that we want to add in, I'm just trying to get, just your professional opinion, where we're at right now is about where we expect it to be.
We've made the adjustments, so we're there.
And freezing expenditures, you think is going to get us there?
We made cuts to every department, told all department heads to drop back 5%. We didn't rehire several positions.
Right,
With
but
it.
I'm just saying, do you think we're going to get there? I'm not saying you didn't do
Well,
anything.
we're going to continue to monitor it and keep, and
As
let
my
you
old
know.
boss used to say, I didn't ask you how to make a watch, I asked you what time it was.
Right now,
So that's why I'm just trying to get a feel
We're trying to get to
for.
the finish line,
Right.
and I think we're gonna get to the finish line, I wouldn't say unscathed, we've already dropped back a little bit, but we're gonna be okay, alive, ready for the next year. If things change, if things get dramatic somewhere, and we lose more revenue, or expenses get wacky somewhere, we will have to dip into that budget reserve, and we'll let you know about that. Right now,
Right now, based on the information that we have in front of us today, we think we're okay.
we're okay.
Like I said, with all the qualifiers that we need,
All the
that's
qualifiers.
fine. I just want to know right now if we feel as an organization that, you know what, we're okay. We're not
okay.
great, we're not perfect, we got challenges, gotta deal with all that stuff, but that's kind of, when we look at these numbers, that's basically what we're trying to get to is, based on what we thought we were. Okay, did you have any other questions?
No.
Can I do some more math for you?
I
Okay.
didn't need the math. Uh-huh.
No, you didn't. I do. Any other questions?
So you're gonna talk about expenditures.
Yeah, just, legal, I just highlighted what the total budget is, what we're estimating to spend by the end of the year, so we're doing okay there. We have a couple of the recording secretary accounts. The Inland Wetlands Agency, back in August and September, they had a total of 6 meetings. I guess they had public hearings, and the last meeting they had was actually in October. But if they have any more meetings, we're going to need to do a transfer from contingency into that account, because that's a very small budget. They wouldn't have the ability, to do any kind of a transfer. And then also looking at the building committee and where we are, I think we may need to do a transfer there, because I think they're going to be having more than one meeting a month coming up, because they're getting busy. That's for the town building committee.
Is that school related, or is that?
It's the school building projects that's
And the
driving
school
it's
building
in-
project budget didn't include that activity?
we fund it, it's
Okay.
a town building
Okay.
committee, and that's why it's there.
It's $1,000, it's not like huge, but
Right,
it's
it's just a small
yeah.
thing, so,
Yeah.
and then there's, I did speak with the chief, and we're, at this point, we're saying it's gonna be close, but we think we're gonna make it with the police overtime. And Niantic Fire, I'm going to be speaking with the chief, because it looks like all of the budget accounts in payroll are in trouble there, so I'm gonna have a talk with him and see if he's projecting the same way that I did here.
Who's the chief again?
Steve Wargo. He's really very good. And the other thing is, do you want to talk about the dispatchers?
Yeah, so when we talked about Dick Morris's retirement, part of the motivation of having him leave at this time is we are in desperate need of adding, we have 4.5 dispatchers in our dispatch center, and we really need 5. So we need to increase the half dispatcher, which is really a 25 or 27-hour-a-week position, back up to 37.5 hours. We're doing that with some of the savings we're getting from from Dick Morris's retirement. That still leaves us a savings of that $60,000. But we need to do that. We're in a position where we're kind of operating in a dangerous place, where we have a lot of calls coming in with one dispatcher on. Our dispatchers now handle police and fire and EMS, and our the impact bargaining is significant enough that we need to put that person on, frankly, as a safety thing. So we're putting that on, and that's where we're going to get some of that income. Again, we're still going to make the revenue, the shortening of the revenue is coming from the state. We still get to the right number by doing this. We were in a place we wanted to put the dispatcher on earlier. We couldn't do it. But with Dick's announcement of his retirement, now we feel that we can do that.
And then the only other thing on the monthly highlight, just point out that in January, we did receive our first installment of the ECS funds at just under 1.5 million. And of course, January was another big tax month for us. And on the expenditure side, we had another contribution to the health fund and health insurance fund, and of course, the interest was due on our debt, and then some other storm-related expenses and overtime highlights for you.
Any other concerns you want to tell us about besides what you did?
The only other thing is, we still are struggling with our health insurance fund. We're just, what we fund goes right out the door in claims. Trying to get to a point where we can start to have a little bit of a reserve in that fund, and we're just not there yet. So that's the other struggle.
And that's just the health insurance in America right now, bumping up 12 to 15% a year. It's just out of control. And our budget has done that for the last 3 years, bumped way up in that neighborhood. You would think if we could just stabilize costs, same number of employees, in fact, less employees in this town than 3 years ago, that the cost stabilized, that 15% would go into a reserve, would go into giving us some cushion. And we get outpaced every time.
How many employees do we have in the town?
We have about 125 full-time employees.
That doesn't include Board of Ed, that's just town side. Thanks.
And they contribute how much to this, that fund?
It varies by group. So on the low side is 14%, and then we have groups that are up at 18.5%.
So it's not quite enough coming into that fund to pay for the cost going out,
Overall, no.
right, at this point.
We budget our money of, plus 15%. Of course, the employees are also getting that 15% hit in their contribution. And we're just there every year.
Mhm.
So every year we bump it up, but we never get ahead of it. We are going out to price, we're bidding on that. We should be hearing back from our broker. We're comparing, the cost of the cost is self-insured, but it's the cost of that umbrella policy of all claimants who go over $125,000, and then there's the administrative costs. The companies actually do all the paperwork for us, and there's that we're going out to bid on. Additionally, we are looking at what would it cost the town to go into a regular insurance program. That is being bid. That will come in higher because it's always, the companies are going to build in their profit and in their cushion. So we know that shouldn't come in lower than self-insurance, but we're going to do that anyway for our due diligence. There is talk, Kevin Lembo spoke today at COST, about a state, there is a state plan, the state employees plan. And they were trying to entice towns to jump on board a couple of years ago. Most towns didn't, for a number of different reasons, but there's talk about reinvigorating that and learning from why towns didn't go into it before. That would be a great shared services effort by the state, is to get all, instead of 169 towns going out to bid, and some towns have different programs for the town and for their Board of Ed, sometimes for different unions. We only have one plan. So instead of 169 plans, having one plan that all the towns can agree on, it's a collective bargaining problem there, but maybe we can work through it.
I have just a general question on the pilot state-owned property. So what exactly is that referred to, all the state-owned property that we're not getting revenue from
Pilot
anymore?
stands for
Or
payment in lieu of taxes. It's the states, way back when, them funding, it's like them giving us property taxes for the prime land that they own in our town. There's 5 pieces of property. There's the
Right.
prison, there's the 2 state parks, Nahantic and Rocky Neck, and 2 National Guard bases,
okay,
right? So Stones Ranch and down here, $1 trillion property down here on the water. So that's been whittled down and whittled down and whittled down. I was told today, though, we're one of only 3 states that actually have pilot. Most states don't. They have state property and you deal with it if they have it in your town. So at one point it was a very generous plan. It's certainly something they're picking apart right now.
thank you.
If there's any other questions, can you talk quickly, to the best of your knowledge, this town compensation sheet that you gave us? Do you know what drives this?
Oh, the one I gave up.
I'm looking at this, just looks like, there's just no
So
rhyme
that's
or reason for
total.
this.
That's total municipal aid. So it's most of the swing is ECS. Most of that swing is ECS. We have $7 million of ECS funding, or it might be down to $6 million now. And we have more pilot money than a town like maybe Lyme has, or we have a lot of state.
We had, yeah.
Had.
So I did point that out. We don't know why Ledyard's so high. There is, what is that? Oh, vocational education. so that they get a lot
That's
of
really
extra.
high.
But then I was looking at the deltas, and why did Stonington drop 80%?
They got
They
hit
got
dramatic, and Simmons has been in the paper talking about it and writing his letters.
Right, a penalty
Um,
for achievement over there.
Yeah.
They've been saving their money, so the state said,
I
you don't
mean,
need it.
Waterford got whacked, Stonington got whacked, Old
Right.
Lyme got whacked. It
So,
seems like-
This really just has, I think we get that little extra bump because most of our taxes are derived from, or come from residents versus commercial and industrial property. I think that's part of the equation in the ECS. You know, we have a lot of that kind of rural land and residential land and don't have a lot of industrial property. So that might help us. But tomorrow it's gonna hurt us. And I just kind of, I've been talking about how, you know, I hang out with these other guys from Saybrook and Old Lyme, and they're all going, so what? And I go, no, it's a big deal for us.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's a secret sauce. It's what's kept East Lyme, you know, a little bit above some of these other towns, educational wise. And if you saw the little thing on the day this weekend, they had cost per person in each town. And if you notice East Lyme, it was a lighter blue. We're more efficient government, or we spend less per person in East Lyme than they do in Waterford, and than they do in Old Lyme and towns around us.
Yeah, that was included in the Board of Ed's budget proposal last year, I mean, seems like last week. Okay, any other questions for our finance director?
Sort of one for Mark. So since Costco pulled out, are we actively pursuing anybody to jump in there and give us some
We're
tax
encouraging
revenue?
it.
I mean, are
We're
we-
encouraging it.
Yeah. Are we seeking it? I don't know how it works.
It's private land. It's a private developer. The developer's still on, Conover, who is developing the new apartments we
Right.
spoke about earlier. And apparently, again, developers are, we were told they're pursuing other opportunities.
Okay. Thanks.
I think the state highway DOT issues that you'll also read about, I hurt Costco quite a bit in their decision making. And I think that's gonna still play in anybody that comes in, especially if it's retail. And the retail is just a tough market right now anyway. I'm encouraging the zoning commission to also consider enticing an office park there. There was a high, not a high end, like a Hampton Inn type of hotel that was looking at that area at one point, and that should be encouraged, frankly.
Okay. We good?
Yep.
All right, we're gonna move on to new business. We got item A here, just a little talking to Ann about this here. When we get into this detail, we're gonna find out that we don't have bids for the source, and that's because the state age, or the Eversource picks the vendor. So I kind of dove into that a little bit. So just so we don't, yeah, so we don't get, I got ripped around the
Okay.
axle about that, but, so we all know.
All right, that was definitely a question.
So Mr. Brigaz is here to explain it better than I could.
So, the reason I'm here, the problem is that the field services building, so that's the building out on Capitol Drive where houses our Public Works Department and our Parks and Rec. The lighting is very poor. The building's about 6 years old. Originally, when they bought the building, retrofitted, they put some big skylights in there. It was supposed to give all this light in the back. That seemed to get progressively worse, and the problem is it's becoming a safety issue for our workers. We're trying to use every nook and cranny of that building. We're putting racks in the back, trying to store plows, doing everything we can. The problem is the lighting throughout the whole facility is not really a good ambient light to work at, and our guys are starting to say, hey, we can't see, or so I don't want guys to get hurt at work. So this all happened kind of late in the year, maybe like November. Only about 2-3 months ago, I was getting this, so I tasked my building maintenance supervisor, Ron Bentz, to go out and try to solve this problem. Just a quick history on this. Because the lighting is bad, there's also the opportunity now, when the building is built, is there's no LEDs and all this stuff like that. We've gone forward with projects in the last 3 years alone. Community center, we did a large project. It's the same kind of format where we did an energy efficiency project, and it went through, got funded through Eversource, and got paid out of the savings we had in electrical bill. Did the same thing in Town Hall. Same way that we did it, as far as the sole sourcing of vetted contractors with Eversource. Did it with the lighting at the police station. So now we're here at the Field Services Building, where we have a fantastic opportunity where we can actually improve the lighting, save electricity, and not actually cost us any more money is what this program is. So the way this is the Eversource contractor goes, or I should say the vendor working through Eversource Energy Efficiency, they do all the layout of all the electrical, and they work with the Eversource people to see how much energy savings is going to be. So we would have a complete retrofit of all the lighting would then be improved, the safety be improved for our workers, and then they come up with a cost. The cost is $29,000. Now, in the past, we didn't even really have to get to this point, because they would just finance it right through our bill, and it would just, say if the bill was $2,000 a month and there was $400 in savings, they would make the loan based on $400 payment over whatever the payback period. You're off to the races. You don't, it's whatever the payback period is. But now Eversource has changed the program that they have to. There's a third party financing. So there's a financing application that I had to give to Anna Johnson, Director of Finance. So, and then there's one other thing that not necessarily complicates, it's a good thing, but because of the Solarize Connecticut, Solarize East Lyme, that Solarize effort that happened in the last year, we got all these energy credits, so we were eligible for a $10,000 Bright Energy Eversource grant. That money is all getting rated. They're taking it back. Mr. Nickerson told me back in November, December, we have to do a project to use this $10,000. I'm not a big fan of just doing projects that weren't on the list, weren't on any kind of plan. We didn't have any projects, except that all of a sudden my employees said about a month ago, we have a problem at the FSB. So I quickly was able to get that money secured, saying that we're going to do this energy efficiency contractor, and because we were working with this vendor, they said, sounds great, you're going to save money, here's the $10,000, send us a check. The check went into the Director of Finance. So now we have a $10,000 check, but now the whole reason of this is being appropriated is because we had to put the $10,000 somewhere. There's $9,000 in energy incentives, but by the way, the energy incentives that are kind of have till March 9th, and then they're not guaranteed anymore. So, that's why I'm trying to get through this process to secure the $9,000, because again, the state is kind of rating all these energy efficiencies. So there's $19,000, which leaves $10,000. The last $10,000 would be, so again, back to my example, if it's $2,000 a month, and that's not exactly the numbers, but whatever it is, they figure out the payback. So that the payback period was figured, because we'd save about $4,100 a year with this energy, is 2.5 years. So that's where we're at. We have this vendor. We want to move forward. We're going through the appropriations, the Board of Selectmen last week. If it goes through this board, it'll go to town meeting. If it's approved there, next day I give the contractor, and they're going to get this lighting project going, and we would secure the $9,000 in energy incentives, and we would secure the $10,000 in the Bright Energy grant that otherwise we hadn't applied to any other project. So that is the story. That's what we're trying to move forward, and hopefully I can answer any questions you might have.
So in summary, if we get this new lighting for this building, the cost of the town is zero.
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I need to know. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes.
Zero?
Well, it is.
Good,
Because
all right.
it is, and I know that all the money comes from somewhere, but $9,000 is from Eversource.
No, yeah.
It's-
$10,000 is
great.
from a grant that
Yeah.
we were gonna lose on December 31st, and we applied for this on December 20th. So,
That's
and
funny.
at the time I applied for the grant, everyone at Eversource in this program were let go because they were getting rid of this program. So I remember I sent emails, I said, I kept sending to Eversource, will someone at Eversource say that they got my grant application, and because the people they sent out the program with were all let go because the program is being dismantled. And then finally someone said back, yeah, we got it, we'll send you the $10,000. We're like, okay.
All right,
So
great.
it's money that would have been lost.
Great.
You have a question?
So we already have, I just want to understand this. No, you wrote no new money needed to move forward with the project. So that
Correct.
what we're saying is we have a line item already for building maintenance for, this is for the loan, or for the monthly electric bill. Right, so we're gonna
Correct.
move,
Well, the town, in the building maintenance is the electricity for all the town buildings.
right. So that line item, we're taking 10.8 out of that line item.
But we're not really technically taking 10.8 out of it because it's gonna come right out of the 10,000 portion is gonna come out of the bill that we pay on a monthly basis.
We're not gonna give Eversource 10A. They're gonna give us a loan equal to 10A, and we're gonna pay it back by our
Yeah.
savings.
Correct.
Nothing
And-
comes out of
and
our
we
pocket.
pay Eversource, and the good thing about it is, the third party is now involved, but we pay Eversource our $2,000 or whatever that amount is, and if there's 400 in the loan, they send it to the third party. So we're never gonna we're never gonna pay anything to the third party. We're gonna pay it like, if we did nothing, we'd be paid the same.
So right now, if we
Here,
pay
like-
$1,000 a month for the electric bill, and we saved $100, that $100 goes to the loan. So
It gets sent to
We still pay
them.
the same monthly payment that we make today, it's just some of it, in 2.67 years, the loan goes away.
And our
Our bill goes down by that.
And our
amount.
bill continues to go down
With
after the loan's paid off, we still save $4,100 a
Okay.
month.
with significant better lighting at the
And we
state.
have an
Yeah,
ergo.
I just wanted
yeah,
to
we got-
understand the line item issue.
Yeah.
I'm set, thanks.
So,
I have a question, Joan. What's the life expectancy of the new lighting system?
I mean, it should be 15 to 20 years. I mean, it's all top notch. I mean, it's gonna have motion sensors. It should last 15, 20 years.
The bulbs are 15 to 20 years. The system, life of the building,
Okay.
until we renovate.
When you do LED lights, it's
Yeah, I mean,
significant,
it
there's
should-
savings in the, you're exactly right. The maintenance, like, because right now, the normal, T8s that you put in there, you have to change every year or two. These things last significantly longer.
it's saving $50,000 a year just in electricity,
Mm.
plus the loan's paid off. 49 too, but still. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'd like to listen to a motion.
Thanks, Joe.
Does anybody have a motion?
Move to approve a special appropriation in the amount of $29,813.85 for the installation of energy-efficient lighting at the Field Services Building at 8 Capitol Drive on a budget account titled Energy Efficient Lighting FSB, will be established for the grant funds and conservation incentive revenue account 01-08-800-842. Clean Energy Incentives has been established for these funds. $10,000 will be from an Eversource Bright Idea Grant. Funds have been received. $8,916.93 from Conservation Incentive money from Eversource. The balance of $10,896.92 to be paid back in a loan that will be deducted directly from our field services bill, electric bill, FSB electric bill, which is taken from building maintenance account number 01-01-113-400-210.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any debate, conversation about the motion in front of us? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. 500. Okay. Thank you. We should move new business to the front of the meeting so he doesn't have to be here for an hour and a half for 2 minutes of work. All right. Do we want to
Love that.
talk, huh?
I love that idea.
Yeah. Do we want to take this next package of